In this video, we're painting techno-organic creations made by the Apostle of War. Hi all, and welcome to the cabin. Today I'm painting a couple of Pretorian Stalkers for the Algaroth faction in Warzone Eternal. Let's get to it. I've recently been having a lot of fun painting the foot soldiers for my army, and today it's time to add some more specialists. But before we get to that, I wanted to share some recent news about Warzone Eternal. First up, the game is featured in the Worlds Beyond Brawl campaign, which is live over on MyMiniFactory and available until June 2nd. There are 3 different warbands with miniatures from the Mishima, Algaroth, and Bauhaus factions, which are part of the big bundle of STL files. But you can also get each set individually for $12. They have been made compatible with one-page rules and also feature 3 new named characters who have received new unit cards for the Warzone Eternal rule system as well. For those like me who don't own a 3D printer and live in Europe, there's a new way to get your hands on physical miniatures. Transatlantis Games have partnered with Silver Heron in the Netherlands, and they now have the entire range of Warzone Eternal available to order on their website. Each sculpt is sold individually, so you can buy exactly what you need for your army. Do note that these don't come with physical unit cards at the moment, but those are available to download for free. Alright, let's get back to today's topic, the Pretorian Stalkers. These heavily armored war machines are designed to carry fearsome support weapons and are the sworn arch-enemies of the Blood Berets. Willing heretics are lowered into molten lava, where they are ritually warped by the dark symmetry and then reforged by Algaroth's Tekrons into biomechanical monsters. The once human brain is reduced to little more than a biocomputer, which is then linked to a stalker twin. These pairs synchronize their attacks and are greatly feared on the battlefield. Here's some of the color artwork by the legendary Paul Bonner. The creatures mostly consist of a dull metallic body, but the skin is a really interesting light blue with pink details on the tusks and spikes. There's also a variant where the skin is painted in a pale green tone. This is actually the very image that first introduced me to Mutant Chronicles as a child back in the 90s, as it was featured on the display boxes of the Doom Trooper cards. The Warzone Eternal miniatures were sculpted by Bruno Garcia, and I think they look really good. The Siocast version from the Kickstarter came with the arms, weapons, and heads separate, and you also had to attach every single spike to the armor. But the Snaptray versions from Trenchworks are printed in a single piece without any assembly required, which is very nice. These are also easy to clean and have amazing detail, as you can see in these close-ups. I'm very excited to get some paint on these bad boys. I undercoated the miniatures with lead belcher to serve as a base for the armor and weapons. My plan was to go back and forth between metallic paints and washes in several stages to build up some nice looking armor. But you can easily skip a few of the steps I'm about to show and still get good results. The first thing I did was to get out my airbrush and apply a zenithal highlight of Iron Hand steel. If you don't own an airbrush, dry brushing the paint will work well at this stage too. I then added a more selective highlight with Runefang steel. The armor is quite bright now, so I used 1 part Rattling Grime diluted with 2 parts Contrast Medium as an overall wash. I like this contrast paint for dirtying down the metallics on my Algaroth models, and here you can see I also applied a second selective wash in the recesses. Next up, I added some more Iron Hand steel, this time layering it on with a normal brush. To define the recesses even more, I then washed the whole thing with Nuln Oil. Once that was dry, I went in with an edge highlight of Runefang steel to make everything pop a bit more. And lastly, to create some interesting shifts in color, I used Garagax Sewer diluted with a lot of Contrast Medium as a selective glaze on random areas. For the blue skin, I started with a base coat of Thunderhawk Blue. This was followed by a wash of Drakenhof Nightshade, and then another layer of Thunderhawk Blue to bring back some of that original shade. After that, I layered on Rust Grey, and then Fenrisian Grey. As a final highlight, I used Blue Horror selectively. To bring everything together, I created a 1-to-1 mix of Space Wolf's Grey and Briar Queen Chill, diluted with a lot of contrast medium as an overall filter. I base coated the green skin with Death Guard Green, and added a wash of Mortarion Grime to make it look a bit dirtier but not too dark. Afterwards, I applied Death Guard Green as the first layer, and continued with Nurgling Green for the next one. I then used Krieg Khaki to make the skin pop even more. Finally, being a bit more selective with Screaming Skull, I highlighted everything. This time I chose Plaguebearer Flesh, diluted with a lot of contrast medium as a filter. I wanted to replicate the pink tusks and horns from the artwork on this stalker, so I base coated them with Screamer Pink, with a rough blend into the blue and silver colors already present. After that, I layered on Pink Horror, and these two colors were also used to paint the gums. On the tusks, I added Emperor's Children as a highlight. I also used Fulgrim Pink as a final selective highlight, and finished these areas with a filter of Magos Purple diluted with a lot of contrast medium. For the Algaroth symbols, as well as the eyes, I chose Corn Red as a base coat, and then washed them with Carabur Crimson, before layering on some Corn Red again. This was followed by a layer of Wazdaka Red, and then Evil Sun's Scarlet. I used Wild Rider Red as a selective highlight, and lastly a filter of Doomfire Magenta diluted with a lot of contrast medium. I base coated the teeth with Ushapti Bone, and washed them with Seraphim Sepia to make them look nasty. To add even more definition, I applied Agrax Earthshade. I still have a pot of the old gloss version that easily flows into the recesses, but you can of course use the standard version as well. As a final touch, I highlighted the teeth with Screaming Skull, which was a bit hard to record, but you can see the results here. All that was left now were the rocks on one of the sculpts, which I base coated with Skavenblight Dinge. Next up, I washed them with Agrax Earthshade, and once dry, added a dry brush of Stormvermin Fur, and finally a more selective dry brush of Dawnstone. And with that, my Pretorian Stalkers were finished. If you're interested in how I base my Algaroth force, you can check out the Resede painting guide. I had a blast painting these models, and I can't wait to try them out on the battlefield. The sculpts are very nice, and I think the Snap Tray kit really does them justice. Here's a comparison with one of the classic 1995 sculpts by Kev Adams. The new version is definitely bulkier, but not as much taller as you might think, since this one is standing on rocks. If you compare the other two, there isn't much difference in height, but the new one is more dynamic, with a pose that just isn't possible when casting a single-piece metal miniature. Overall, I am really happy with these new versions, and I can't wait to paint the last available units for Algaroth in the next couple of videos. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. We'll see you next time. Good luck with your miniatures.